Okay, so for after graduation, I think this is usually one of the key things for international student. After graduation, am I going to get a post-study work visa? Yes, the PSWV in New Zealand is available to students who studied full-time. So the duration of your program is also a factor that is considered. So you have about, I think, for 3 years if you study at any of those upper levels. For bachelor's, 3 years. But of course, you have studied like 4 years, so you are entitled to 3 years. If you studied at postgraduate diploma level 8, you have only 1 year. If you studied at master's level, level 9, 3 years. And for PhD, of course, 3 years. And going to scholarships, these are some of the scholarships available that are locally available scholarships and their values. You have the Auckland University of Technology International Scholarships, the Vice Chancellor Scholarships, and then Victoria Tongarewa Scholarship. These are all small scholarships. If you need full scholarship, they are available online. This is actually the time. Just go online and find scholarship to study in New Zealand, full scholarship to study in New Zealand. They're there. And then you also have, there is also the Commonwealth Scholarship. The Commonwealth Scholarship is a scholarship that you can use to study in any Commonwealth country. So, and New Zealand is a Commonwealth country. So if you get the Commonwealth Scholarship, you can also use it to study in New Zealand. So, but these are all small scholarships that you can add to whatever you have, and you can have more. So these are the application documents required. Of course, you need to fill up the application form and sign. You need your resume or CV. You need a statement of purpose if you are studying for master's or postgraduate diploma. You need 2 letters of recommendation also, and work experience. And then you also need your English test score. Now there are situations where you can be exempted from English test if you are from maybe a country where such exemptions are granted. And then you need your certificates and transcripts or mark sheets, as may be the case depending on your country. And then you need a copy of your passport, the data page or bio information page, and the last page. So you need those. Okay, concerning tuition, these are the tuition figures. Basically, these are New Zealand dollars. So you can take a screenshot there. That's the figure depending on your course. So it varies based on what you are studying. So there is no specific figure. It's a kind of range depending on what you're studying. And these are the costs for the ITPs. They are a bit lower. Okay, so now to go in, we have to talk about proof of fund. It's always the issue, because for international students, for you to be allowed, for your visa to be granted, you need to provide a proof of fund. So usually you need minimum of 20,000 New Zealand dollars per year for upkeep, and you have to add your total tuition to that. You need a little bit of travel funds to show that you are able to travel to New Zealand. And then you also need to show how you intend to pay the rest. For example, if you are studying for 2 years or 3 or 4 years, of course, you are going to present a proof of fund for the first year. But you have to also show how you intend to pay up for the remaining years. So that's what they call the payment plan. So these are acceptable documents, acceptable proof of fund sources for you. So you can sponsor yourself, your parents can sponsor you, your immediate blood relatives are the only ones allowed. Parents, grandparents, your spouse, yourself, your brother or sister. Okay, you can also use an education loan letter from a nationalized or multinationalized bank. You can get a latest bank statement for the past 3 months, and it must not be older than 1 week at the time of lodgement of your application, meaning that it is only when you are about ready to submit your application that you have to get the proof of fund, or sorry, the bank statement. Fixed deposits, copy and balance certificates from the bank can also be used. Your national savings certificate can be used. And also note that your sponsor must provide documentary evidence of their identity. That is, their date of birth, the proof of your relationship, and then the full contact details of your sponsor, including their telephone numbers. And those telephone numbers had better be correct by the time, because they are going to check. So evidence of their source of income, they have to also provide. If they have a job or they have a business, they have to provide proof that shows that they have what it takes. And funds, okay, I think I've mentioned that. 3 months bank statement. So for your visa application to scale through easily, these are some of the best practices. Your academic record should be top-notch, more than 60% in your 10th and 12th grade if you are going for a bachelor's program, and I will say above 3.5 CGPA if you are going for a master's program. And then your English test score, if applicable, must be high. Your proof of fund must be verifiable, and you must show paper trails to explain any recent high deposits, because there are situations where some people suddenly just dump money into their account just before they print out the bank statement. It's not acceptable. But if it is a legitimate, if there's a legitimate reason why such a deposit is made, then you have to provide paper trail. For example, where was that money coming from, and why was it coming at that point in time? Such situation can happen to people. Let's say your sponsor is suddenly paid some annual bonus, and it happened at the time when you were about to maybe print out the bank statement. So you can provide paper information, documentary information from wherever the money is coming from to say, hey, this is not a dump, this is just from my employment. And then, I mentioned that only immediate family members are allowed to financially sponsor you. So don't ask whether your neighbor or your uncle, your distant uncle, or anyone that is not immediately related to you cannot sponsor you. It's going to affect your visa approval. Then verifiable evidence of regular income for your sponsor is also required. What's their source of income? Are they employed? If they are employed, their employment letter or a letter of engagement from their employer. If they are in business, maybe their registration documents. These are all, you have to think about what evidences you can provide to show that they have regular income. And then your intended course of study should be relevant to your previous qualification or your work experience. I think for those who are familiar with Canadian requirements, this is very similar to Canadian requirements. So, and it must show logical progression. So don't say you have studied, let's say you have studied English, and now you are going for a master's degree and you want to study linguistics. That's related. So it's understandable. But you studied English and suddenly that's for your bachelor's, and suddenly for your master's, you want to do data science. That's a bit weird. So it's going to take a lot of explaining to justify why you want to do that. So it can affect your visa approval. And then the health and character requirement is also there. So you need to show that you are healthy, you are capable of doing a graduate program, and then you need character certificates from any country that you have lived for more than 6 months since you were, I think, 16 or 18. So, and then, okay, so there are cases where visa interviews are usually required. It's not in all cases. So if your case requires additional details or clarifications, then they may call you for visa interviews. So for visa processing times, usually it's between 4 to 8 weeks. But if you are called for an interview, within 3 days, you can get a feedback. And I think that sounds a little bit not very interesting. So it's better, I guess it's better not to get an interview. So about payment plan, which I mentioned earlier, that's something they call the Form 16 of the sponsor. It shows income and saving patterns. It might be a different name in other countries. So, and then there are, if they have accumulated some funds over the years, or over a period of 1 year, they can also show that as payment plan. Don't forget that's how you show that you are able to pay the remainder of your fees for the remainder of the years of your study beyond the 1 year that you showed for proof of fund. And then if you have any maybe deposits due for maturity in the following year, these are all ways that you can show that you have ability to pay for the rest. Okay, so there's a note there. Land documents or property valuation documents are not acceptable as payment plan. Now, I've mentioned this, acceptable sponsors only yourself, your spouse, your parents, your grandparents, and your siblings. So these are some reasons for visa deniers, especially if you are going through a telephonic interview. If you don't have enough knowledge about the course you claim you want to study or the institution you applied to. So now the fact is that sometimes because you are working with an agent organization, the organization helps you to apply and process everything, but that does not excuse you from doing your own diligence of checking on the university and the course that you are applying for. You have to do that because when you go for interview, it will be you and you are going to be the one who has to answer all the questions. So enough knowledge about your course, enough knowledge about your institution, clarity regarding your future plans. This is very important. It is very important. You have to, even if your statement of purpose, even if you received help with it, you have to own it. You have to go through it and make sure that you understand what you have put there and how you intend to defend your future plans. Discrepancies in your work experience letter or details provided by you and cross-verified by the visa officer, because they are going to call your employer. So if you say, oh, I worked in this place and I did this and that, and then they call your employer and your employer say, no, we don't know anything about him, or no, that's not what he did, then that's visa denier staring you in the face. So, and then if you also provide funds that will not be verified, or they call your sponsor and your sponsor was nowhere to be found, your sponsor is not picking calls or pick calls and is unable to answer the questions that were asked from him, those are all issues that you're going to be working towards a negative visa situation. So that's about it. And then I added a few information for those who might be thinking about immigration after graduation. So one, the visa pathways for immigration, there are about, I think, 3 or 4 of them. So the first one is the skilled migrant category. You need a skilled job in New Zealand. You have to meet up with certain qualifications, skill level and pay threshold, and a certain age and English requirements. So let me say something about this, because you may have qualified for exemption from English test, based on your university and your country of origin. But if you are applying to stay back in New Zealand, the English test is compulsory. So if you don't do it then, you're going to do it now. And so you can check all the details for that on their website if you are interested. And for pathway B, that's the green list residents, the fast track route. If your job is on the green list, then you can go straight to residence or work to residence, which is 2-year duration. You can get any one of them. If you are working in the field of health, IT, engineering, education, construction, and science, practically every field. So what I will advise is check on New Zealand green list and see what's on the list, so that can help you to make a decision on what you should be studying. It can help you before you even start the study, before you even start the application. If your intention is to stay back, then think about how you should be studying, what you should be studying, and factor that into your decision from the onset. And this is the pathway C. If you are married to a New Zealand citizen, you can also get residence. Or if you are married to a resident, you can also get residence. But please don't turn this to a business. This is not business. This has to be genuine. And you must show that it's a stable relationship, not just an arrangement because of desperation. So after 2 years of being a resident, you can apply to become a PR. So getting a PR allows you to live in New Zealand indefinitely, and it is only applicable after you have held a resident visa for about 2 years. You also have to meet the character and commitment conditions. So how do you demonstrate commitment to New Zealand? One, you must live in New Zealand for most of those 2 years. So don't make it 7 months outside, 3 months inside. No, you have to stay within the country. You must also show tax residence, meaning that you're working and you are paying tax. You may need to show home ownership, but it's not compulsory, but it strengthens your application if you have. And then you must also be establishing genuine ties, because they may ask you to verify the ties that you have. So you need to build networks in New Zealand. Have friends, make friends, have a community that you belong to and you are participating in. Yeah, these are all things that you need to do. And after 5 years of being a resident, you are allowed to apply for citizenship. So you also show good character, demonstrate basic English, and show that you intend to keep living in New Zealand. Not that you'll be out, in and out. So that's the process there. Approval, then if you get approval, then you take the citizenship oath, and then you become a citizen and you can get the New Zealand passport. So this is just a summary of the timeline. So that shows you the realistic timeline. You 1 to 3 years to study, and then 1 to 3 years of post-study work, and then you have 3 to 12 months of processing resident visa, then 2 years you hold the PR, and 5 years you you are qualified to become a citizen. So that's it. That's the bonus points that I wanted to add, and thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. If there are questions that were not addressed in the presentation, I think I'll be able to take a few of them now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see everyone as well. Okay, I can see a hand up. That will be Abdul Basit. Okay, so please go ahead. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes. Good morning, phone. Can you hear me, Ma?
You're welcome. You are muted.
Good
Okay.
morning, ma.
Good morning.
Yes, ma. So for good morning from my end. Good afternoon over there.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, when you were presenting, you mentioned something about the entry requirements for PhDs. You didn't. I didn't get that part for some different categories. The percentage, what does it really refer to? I know you mentioned about calculating it from a form of FOC, but I don't get what the requirements are really particular about the percentage. And then when you mentioned the tuition rate for other categories, you didn't talk about the PhD. So I was going to ask about that.
Okay, thank you very much. In terms of the qualification, usually anything above 3.0 CGPA is usually acceptable. Then for PhD, you also need to write a research proposal for the research that you want to do, and you need to find a supervisor. So it's because the whole PhD process is much more different from taught programs. That's why I didn't add much about it. So usually you need all of that. 3.0, 3.5 is usually better, because if you are going to be competing, if it's an area where you have more people wanting to come in, then you're going to need something like 3.5 and above, especially if you are looking towards scholarship or sponsorship by maybe your supervisor or by your institution or by the School of Graduate Studies, because they usually have a lot of sponsorship. So to qualify, I would say go for 3.5 and above. And then for the tuition, I didn't put the tuition because it is local tuition. So depending on what is paid in the university by local student, which varies across the universities. So depending on what the local students pay, that's what PhD student will normally pay. And then I think those are your two questions.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you, ma. And one more thing is for I have a veterinary medicine background.
Okay.
Or a course like that, we are not giving GPs. We have a professional result. So
Okay.
what can you say about that?
So when you say professional result, how is it rated? Do you have a percentage, or how is your result rated?
It's just your result of whether you pass, and if you have a distinction, it is stated in it. But there's no GP there at all.
Okay, so what usually will happen with that is when we have your transcript, so inside the transcript, the detailed scores for the subjects that were taken throughout the program is usually specified. So based on those scores, we calculate the percentage.
Okay, thank you so much, ma. Thank you so much.
Do we have any other question? Okay, so I guess I think many of the questions that could come up have been addressed in the presentation. So if there are no other questions.
So how can I reach out to you? Have any question? I mean,
Okay, I think, okay, Arrows, can you please put the WhatsApp number in the chat box? So there's a WhatsApp number, you can use it, or you can send email, or you can fill the form directly on the website. That will be good enough. Somebody will always reach out to you with that. And then I think, yeah, those are main things that I feel anyone that wants to go to New Zealand needs to know. And then there is also a message, so to say, that I would say I encountered, because previously many people from Africa claimed that it was usually a bit difficult going to New Zealand, but now I think things are a lot easier. The world is more of a global village now, because New Zealand is quite far from practically everywhere. So I would think that I am a bit far from many places. So beyond most of African countries, I am about 7 hours ahead. But New Zealand is about 4 hours ahead of us. So New Zealand is like half a day or more ahead of most African countries. So it's a bit far on the other side of the globe, but it's a very nice place to live for. And don't think that you are not going to find anyone from your country there. Everybody from everywhere is in New Zealand. So there are many people from different countries living there. It's a nice place to live. Okay, so any other question? If there is none, I'll say we have come to the end of the discussion for this afternoon. And if you are interested in going to New Zealand, you can always reach out to Arrow's office. Arrow's will help you by evaluating your credentials to see whether you are qualified. And even if you do the calculation by yourself and you are not sure if you are qualified, don't worry about it, because sometimes when your results are not very, I would say not very excellent, but you have work experience, it always make up for it. So Arrows will help you to package your application in a way that puts you in a very good position based on a combination of your result and your work experience speaking for you. So just make sure that whatever you are studying is also related. So if your work experience is something different from what you want to study, that's going to be another problem. So I guess. So I think we have come to the end of the presentation and our time out this afternoon. Thank you everyone for being part of this. And we'll look forward to seeing you in the next webinar. Please reach out to Arrow's office for any question. The link has been shared in the chat box, so feel very free to use it and start discussing whatever your plans are. So good evening and have a wonderful weekend, everyone. And thank you for being part of this.
One of the most popular attractions within the country, there are multiple tours offering day trips to Hobbiton, particularly from Auckland. We'll link them all below. Now it's time to share one of our favourite destinations within New Zealand, Wanaka. Wanaka is an incredible ski and resort town located about a 1